From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swalwell to Silverlink. The North East Footy Breakfast with Roy, Steve and Ted.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
Good morning, North East. It is the North East Footy Brekky show. No Ted this morning, but me and Rye here to bring you 2 hours of football chat along with Daz on the buttons.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good to be here as always.
Hull City 2, Middlesbrough 2. We'll be talking a little bit about that. Not quite the result you were hoping for, Rye, but certainly the result that you got, and probably point gained rather than 2 points lost, and still in with the chance of the playoffs. So we'll be coming to that. We'll be talking about Newcastle United. They are close to finalising the new contract for Joe Linton. Want to know how big this is for Newcastle United, and hear what you've got to say out there. Marco Gabbiadini says Dodds is out of his depth at Sunderland. Do you agree? Ted's sent us his thoughts in on that. And with the Adidas strip set to be unveiled on Tyneside, I want to know the listeners and the presenters' favourite strip makers and their favourite strip of all time. Doesn't have to be the team that you support, but have you got the favourite strip of all time? Is it something outlandish or is it something basic? Let us know on the WhatsApp number. And points deductions in the Premier League are continuing to dominate the news this week, and appeals could lead to teams staying up and others being relegated throughout the pre-season. And that'll throw pre-season into chaos for a lot of teams, should the Premier League look to sort all of this out before the end of the season. And the Wrexham story continues to entertain many up and down the country. A lot of neutrals following Wrexham now just to see how far they can go. They look set for a second promotion. We'll be talking about that. How far can they go? And Fans Group Football Supporters Europe has criticised UEFA's allocation of only 12,000 tickets for the Europa League final at the Aviva Stadium. This goes under the agreed percentage that fans were expecting. Just want to know how many tickets you think we should get for those kind of cup finals, and should we start cutting down on these corporate allocations. Also, Bruno Guimaraes, if he's shown a yellow card this weekend, he'll serve a 2-match ban. However, if he's shown 2 yellow cards, he'll only serve a 1-match ban.
What?
So, should he or will he get sent off if he is booked? We've also got a little bit of news with Steve's X-Files coming up later on. But as always, we will start with our club updates going around the clubs in the region.
Magpies and Proud. Mags News.
Well, good morning, Newcastle United fans. The Premier League have confirmed on Wednesday that Newcastle's final home game of the season against Brighton isn't among the live TV picks, and therefore remains a 3 o'clock start on Saturday, May the 11th. Our postponed Premier League visit to Manchester United will be staged on Wednesday, May the 15th, with an 8 o'clock kick-off live on Sky Sports, which leaves only confirmation of whether our final day visit to Brentford will be selected for live UK TV. That wouldn't have a bearing on the kick-off. It's already set for 4 o'clock on Sunday, May the 19th. The Brighton schedule, though, is bad news for any season ticket holders that were hoping to attend Gateshead's FA Trophy final at Wembley, which is also on May the 11th. Newcastle United have taken Arsenal youth goalkeeper Noah Cooper on trial. Cooper, who joined the Gunners from Crystal Palace as a schoolboy, is on the lookout for a new club after being informed he won't be offered a professional contract for Mikel Arteta's side. He progressed through the ranks at Arsenal and had been promoted to the under-21s last year after spending 2 seasons with the under-18 setup. Newcastle United head coach Eddie Howe should get more credit for the job he's doing at St James's Park this season, according to former Magpie striker Louis Saha. The United boss has seen his side struggle to match the heights of last season's top 4 finish, but they're still on course for another European adventure if they can end the campaign strongly. I expected this season to be a challenge for Newcastle, said Saha, but still Eddie Howe has managed to do really well. You've got to give him credit, and he's managed to get the team gelling well. He's nurtured young players and given them the confidence to perform. He's done a really good job this season. Saha was talking to Paddy Power this week. That's your Newcastle headlines on Thursday the 11th of April.
Smoggies and Proud. Borough News.
Good Good morning, you beautiful Borough fans. Happy Thursday. Well, it was Middlesbrough playing out the back that was under the microscope again as it cost them a goal in the 2-2 draw with Hull City that could have had huge implications in the race for the Championship top 6. Manuel Latte-Lath continued his fine scoring form with a tidy finish from a tight angle. His 11th goal of the season. What a season he could have next season if he's kept fit. And Finazaz would ultimately decide the match after a great counter and interception by Borough. Moving it from one end of the pitch to the other was a sign of how good a free-flowing Borough can look. With both sides chasing Norwich City down in 6th spot, the draw wasn't particularly useful to either, though perhaps slightly better for Hull, who do have a game in hand, but for Borough it moved them 6 points off the Canaries with only 4 games remaining. A bullish Michael Carrick was refusing to give up on Borough's hopes though, however, insisting he and the side will continue to fight through thick and thin until the very end as they look to overturn that 6-point gap. Carrick was equally defiant when questioned on Hull City's second goal too, which in hindsight at full-time proved to be an important one. Speaking of that moment about when Senny Dean played to Lewis O'Brien into trouble, which allowed Michael Seri to score, Carrick said, "We believe in it a lot, yes. We got caught today, and if we didn't, we might have won the game, but that's football. I think we scored the first goal from that kind of playing out from the back, so I've got no problem with that. Sometimes it can work, sometimes it doesn't, but ultimately I believe in the overall picture, and it's the way I want my team to play." Michael Carrick now has to move his team on quickly to a big game this weekend against Ipswich Town. 6 points to close. That's your Borough updates.
Mackems and Proud. Black Cats News.
Here are your Sunderland updates this Thursday morning. It's a potential double reunion looming this weekend at the Hawthorns as former Sunderland loan favourite Jan Mvia prepares to face the Black Cats in a West Brom shirt, while pantomime villain Josh Madger could also be available. However, he's facing a race against time to be fit. Elsewhere, it could be a North East goalkeeper merry-go-round this summer as Arsenal appear more likely to offload Aaron Ramsdale with Newcastle United rumoured destination. This does increase the likelihood that they'll test Sunderland's resolve for highly rated number 1 Anthony Patterson, although as previously stated on the show, there are a number of clubs monitoring his situation. And finally, whilst the season is all but over for Sunderland with their hopes of consecutive playoff finishes gone, that does not mean that the players should give up. Instead, it should mean that the players should want to give our loyal fan base something to cheer about in what has been a poor season overall. That's exactly what Chris Riggs' mindset seems to be, as he posted on Instagram following the draw with Leeds, saying, "A good point against a good side, let's end the season strong." Couldn't say fairer than that, Riggy. That's your update. I thought I'd just have my...
From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swalwell to Silverlink. The North East Footy Breakfast with Roy, Steve and Ted.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
Can we play that again? What on earth was he saying at the end?
It's like he's saying to his wife or something. Sign off, forgot to hit the end record.
I don't think so. Right. Move it on.
Something about the cat. First of all, before we start talking football, lads, I went along to see Limelight, which is a play by Janet Plater. It's produced by Carol Weir's Production and Events and directed by Christina Berryman, and it was on at the Theatre Royal Studio last night.
Oh, yes.
The play, written by Janet, is set in 1854. I'm not going to give you too much of the storyline. It's a local play. But if you get an opportunity to go along and support some local theatre, please do. It's, as I say, it's at the Newcastle Theatre Royal Studio. It runs till Saturday there. But if you live in and around the region, it's going on to the Gala Durham Studio. It's going to Blythe Library. It's going to Queen's Hall Art Centre in Hexham. It's going to the Art Centre in Washington. It's getting a really good tour. Saltburn, Alnwick, and then back to Newcastle, 4th of May at the Gosforth Civic Theatre. If you want to find out any details about that, then go to the website www.carolwproductions.com. And if you get along to this, honestly, you won't be disappointed. It's not too long. It's probably, for some people who maybe go to the theatre and go, oh god, it's going to be 3 hours long. I'm never going to get that time back. It's not one of those. It's not one of those plays. It's a perfect time and a great opportunity to get yourself along and go and support local theatre. But well worth going to see that the Theatre Royal before Saturday if you can get along. And what I might do, Daz, is I might exchange a couple of numbers and get you to give them a bit of a plug, because it's hard work putting a show on in the North East, especially when you're touring. So from your perspective, it might be good for you to get them on the show, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also I'm speaking to Ed War next week, who's writer of War Bella.
Yeah, good lad, Ed.
Which is coming up to the Theatre Royal in a couple of weeks' time as well. So looking forward to that. That's another good story. But yeah, absolutely. You can pass the numbers on, and we'll get them on to have a chat about. We love celebrating the things that are going on across the North East, and particularly when they're rooted in the North East as well. So yeah, absolutely. Sounds good.
Good stuff. Okay. Last night's game. Let's talk about that.
Yes,
right.
sir.
Yeah, I mean, Hull City 2, Middlesbrough 2. It was a game I didn't manage to catch last night. Although it sounds a lot more entertaining than
neither did I. I had to work. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah. So what have you gleaned from the reports about last night's match?
Yeah, look, I ended up watching it obviously in full once I got home from work. Unfortunately, I missed the watch along. The timing of the radio moving earlier, and I just wasn't able to make it. But I ended up watching the game in full, as I always do post match, and it was a good game in the end. It was an exciting game. 2-2. You would think would probably be evens. You would think at the end of it. It was Middlesbrough, as I said in the club updates, who ultimately gave them the second goal, though. Senny Dieng playing it out from the back, which has caught us out so many times this season, hasn't it, Daz? I mean, playing out from this back, this system just seems to be something that Michael Carrick believes in and has always sort of wanted to do, but it's just like, I guess, the level of the playing group that we've got, whether they're capable of doing it, I'm not too sure, with the style that he wants it to be in. I mean, he believes in the system so much. It's just, at this level, at the Championship, you just get errors, do you know what I mean? Like you would in the Premier League as well, do you know what I mean? But maybe more so than others, as, you know, there's a young group there, especially with Rav Vandenberg back there as well. So you would hope that, Middlesbrough have learnt from it, but we'll see. It was a fantastic game. Obviously, Latte Lath scoring his 11th of the season within 4 minutes, and you're like, oh my goodness, here we go. We're on here. And then Hull would take it into halftime at 2-1, and you're a bit sort of feeling flat coming into halftime, especially just before the stroke of halftime. It was that error that cost us the goal. And then in the second half, we would see this brilliant sort of interception played by Rav Vandenberg. That would then open up Hull City, and we'd go from end to end, and Finn Azaz would be finishing, albeit coming off a Hull City player. But for me, it showed that Finn Azaz is going to be a real threat for us next season, and I think he's going to be very exciting. And a lot of people talking about that whole Morgan Rogers leaving, but I think some people have forgotten that we have got Finn Azaz. He was and he seems to be a perfect replacement. He's got the talent, he's got the speed, and it was great to see Latte Lath and Finn Azaz, both permanent players, both new at the club, get on the score sheet, because that's our future next season, isn't it? That's what builds us into next season. So, a horrible night for a couple of players. I think Sam Greenwood still was one of those frustrating nights from Sam Greenwood. Ultimately, obviously he's on loan trying to fight for his contract. Luke Ayling, I think, was fantastic as well, as was Matt Clark. And ultimately, just signs that there is a club there and a team there on paper that's willing to push a lot of good teams. And I think we will surprise a few when it comes to Ipswich this weekend, because we're just playing with confidence, aren't we? We're playing with free-flowing attitude. It seems to be the tactics that seem to be working, and everything seems to be clicking at the moment in the Borough world, albeit sometimes some defensive fatalities. But, I mean, is that 8 on the bounce, I think, undefeated now? I think it's 8 on the bounce, undefeated now, including draws. So it's a fantastic effort when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, and especially from where we were a couple of months ago when, Dave came in and, was about to shut everything down because the Borough sucked that much. So it was, it's good to see finally that it's all clicking. And look, it probably hurts in the long run in terms of the playoff getting a point, because it does keep that gap between the Canaries quite large, and I don't think the Canaries drop any more points, even though we saw them draw with Sheffield Wednesday. But it probably helps Hull rather than it helps us, like I said. But look, I'm still proud of this group, still proud of the lads, and what a turnaround and what a performance it was, travelling down to Hull City on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, I mean,
thoughts on this, Daz?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the game live, and my son was there. He'd gone down with the Borough coaches and things, and he'd messaged me just before the start of the game and said, "Get some money on Latte Lath to score, first scorer."
Yes.
because in the warm-up he was just hitting everything. Everything was going.
Yes.
And he said he's absolutely on fire. And unfortunately, I didn't have time to.
Oh no!
I know, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I thought he took his goal really well. You know, there was a bit of luck in there as well. But you know, you've got to do it, haven't you? You've got to be there. And he is on fire at the moment. I thought he had a quieter second half. But you know, I'm just really pleased for him because he's had a tough season. And when he came in, you know, there was a lot of he's not good enough. You know, and I think that knocked his confidence a lot. But you can't deny it. Was that 12, 13 goals this season?
Yeah, it's 11. That's 11.
Yeah. I think in all competitions, there's a couple more. Yep. But so
it's 13 in all competitions. Sorry. Yeah.
So I'm really pleased for him. I thought that was great for him. I agree with you about Greenwood. Yeah, I'm just not sure. I'm just not convinced that he's in the game enough that he needs to be, and you know the likelihood is, I don't think he'll be able to play. Him and Ayling will be able to play against Leeds, which I think will be interesting. But Matt Clark just brilliant. I thought Finn Azaz was good at times. I thought Sammy did well when he came on.
Yeah, looked lively, didn't he?
Yeah, I thought he did well in the second half, and that gave us another lift again. I think we should have won the game, and it comes down to this at the back thing, Yeah, I mean, Carrick was very, very clear about it, wasn't he?
He was.
That this is how they play, tough. Yeah, we could have won the game, we didn't, but we wouldn't have scored the first goal if we hadn't played out from the back.
Exactly.
So it's that whole swings and roundabouts thing.
Yeah.
It's frustrating though, isn't it, as a fan? When they give it away like that, and there's confusion at the back, and we shouldn't be doing that. And how many times have we heard it this season? We'll learn the lessons. How many times has Carrick said that? We'll learn the lessons from when they do that, and they still are making those mistakes. But I think you mentioned it. There was a move, that came right out from Dieng that didn't get to a goal. That was like, whoa, is this our Borough?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because that was Borough at its free flowing best.
Oh, amazing that.
Yeah, it really was good. So
into the Finn Azaz goal, one went into the other, and Rav Vanderberg getting that interception. Good to see him back as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was fantastic.
So I was disappointed that we didn't get the win. I thought the game was there to win. I thought Hull looked good at times. They took their goals well. Turned the game around back from our early goal.
That early goal, Daz, can I just ask you quickly, do you think it's got anything to do with a certain Instagram post that Latte Lath might have had done for him?
I think that's exactly the reason. Score? Yeah, I think that's
he was a little bit pumped up from a certain Photoshopper esque.
I think that's exactly why he scored that goal.
He had an extra step, didn't he? He just had that extra boost before the game.
Yeah, which is brilliant. Disappointed we didn't come away with it. Playoff talk. Well, we've been trying to stop the playoff talk, haven't we, the last couple of weeks? And but while it's been mathematically possible, there's still been that little sort of glint of hope. Not anymore. I know. Carrick said, "Yes, it is. We're still fighting. We're going for everything." And that's part of what we do. It's not pressure. I think that's what he said, wasn't it? This is our bread and butter. This isn't pressure. This is what we do. We go out to beat these teams to get as far as we can. Good luck with him on that one. I think the Canaries are just step too far away from us now. But going to Ipswich,
big games as well.
Yeah, going to
Ipswich and Leeds.
Full of confidence still. They'll go there. It's not always an easy place to go, but they'll go there and they'll give it a go. That is without doubt what Carrick is saying. That they're still fighting for something, whatever that something is. Who knows? But yeah, it's overall. I was pleased with the performance. I was just because it was better than the weekend. And you'll testament to that. It was a dour game at the weekend.
Yes, sir.
So it was a better performance. Just that disappointing we didn't come away with all points.
0330 043 2002 if you've got a point to make about Middlesbrough's point last night. And we're going to get a bit of traffic and travel, and we will be back after this.
From Wickham to Whitley Bay, Stonygate to Shields, Doggy to Darlow Backlane, Steve, Ted and Rye. The North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the northeast, the red, the tune and the cat.
Good morning, welcome back to the North East Footy Breakfast Show. 0330 043 2002 if you want to get involved this morning. Don't forget, I want to know what your favourite replica strip is of all time. Which football strip is the one that you've worn with pride for many years? Have you kept it in your wardrobe for years? Is it a special one? Lots of Newcastle, Sunderland and Middlesbrough options to pick, but you could go for a worldwide one. Let us know. Interesting, when we're off air there, you were just talking about injuries and you know how different Middlesbrough's season might have been, lads, with with regards to the injuries. And Ryan, you made an interesting point about a little bit of an accusation thrown at Michael Carrick, suggesting that his training methods are similar to Eddie Howe's. Eddie seems to have come under a bit of criticism for perhaps working the players too hard. I mean, before you mentioned Carrick, Eddie Howe didn't get the same criticism last year when we knew that he was doing this training, and Newcastle went on this wonderful run and got to Wembley and finished in the Champions League spots. So I would say that unless you're standing on the sidelines watching Eddie Howe train the lads, then how do we know what he's doing? And how do we know exactly what is going on at the training ground? For me, Newcastle's season was blighted by the injuries that happened mainly on the pitch. Sven Botman and Jamal Lascelles, Dan Byrne, Nick Pope, Harvey Barnes, all picked up injuries, long-term injuries on the pitch. Elliot Anderson's was a freak accident, we believe, away from the pitch, which saw him out for a huge period. Callum Wilson has been much maligned with injury throughout his career. He's never really played a full season at Newcastle either. So, and Alexander Isak is very similar. So we've had no regular games with both centre forwards available where Eddie's had a chance to bring off one and put the other one on. So I would say a lot of ours has come down to just in-game injuries. So I don't lay that at Eddie's door. Like I say, when things were going well last season, nobody was going, Eddie's training them too hard, or he's he's doing this and he's doing that. So what's the criticism that's been levelled at Carrick?
It's the whole training regime as well that we've been reading about now, and it's, again, you're absolutely right. It's a reporter or someone that's, I don't know if they've even attended one sort of training session and looked at the intensity of it. Maybe it was that one intense training session for that week. Do you know what I mean? Unless you, like you said, unless you go to every training session and can get a whole sort of range of what it is like at the training session, then it's really hard to sort of, I feel, comment on what his training's like. But the questions are being asked of that, because we're exactly the same, Steve. We are seeing the boys get all these injuries on the pitch, but are they rocking up to the game too sore already? Are their bodies sort of ready, overly run already? And that was the question that they asked, this reporter asked of Newcastle and Middlesbrough. Is it over preparedness during training? Is it an overwork method during training that sees these young lads then rock up to a game, sore or niggles or whatever that from training? And those were the accusations, and I think it's, I don't think it is. I just think, unfortunately, it's one of those, those luck things. And I think Michael Carrick and Eddie are probably from that sort of same era, which, was easier to sort of, it doesn't take a smart man to sort of label them both as that sort of era of, Sir Alex Ferguson and, that old school era of maybe running those, the old sort of style, tougher on the ball training methods that you go in like you're going to do, what is it, like train like you would, it's like if you're playing a match or that sort of thing. So, it's interesting. And it was just interesting to read this report that he labelled Michael Carrick and Eddie Howe in the same sort of breath, saying that maybe their training methods are both too similar, that we've seen both the teams struggle with injuries this season. And I just think it was a bit, I don't know, didn't really believe in it, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it does. It's where it's where you've got to be careful, haven't you? You know, when people say this is a fact, it's a story which is generated by a journalist. Journalists have to have some element of truth, I guess, but it can just be an opinion, Daz, as well. Yeah. That's the thing, and these kind of things can kind of snowball, and especially if results start going against Middlesbrough.
Yeah, not wrong.
Touch wood, they won't. That's when this kind of this story becomes a fact.
Yeah, and we've had a couple of poor runs this season. One a couple of months ago, where we didn't look as though we could, we would get a win. That little thing at the start of the season, the start of the season was absolutely woeful. A lot of talk about getting rid of Carrick.
Yep.
So you've got to ask yourself, why those runs happen. And yes, I think some of it was to do with injuries. But I don't think there's anything wrong with asking those questions about how things are run. And I think you've said it yourself before, Steve. In terms of the club, are looking at how the training methods and the routines and the regimes work as an evaluation to hang on, has this impacted on injuries or not? So I don't think there's anything wrong with asking that question. But I think it's maybe too easy to say with Carrick. It's the Ferguson effect. Fergie was a hard taskmaster, so that's what it'll be.
Exactly what it is.
That's
exactly what it is. You're absolutely right. So it was that same breath. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you're right, Steve. I think there's some column inches needed here, perhaps. But I just feel that. We've both been very unlucky this season, and if it is something that has happened, particularly these injuries, because of routines or because of things that have gone on and off the training pitch, then of course, as a club, you should be evaluating your processes and your techniques.
I'd argue that Michael and Eddie are smart enough to think that as well, though. Do you know what I mean? They'll both sit down in the off-season and go, well, that's, how was our training? But it's not the time now, mid-season, to go, right, we're ripping up the script of how I train the lads. No. But I'd argue they're both intelligent enough to think about, what could have we done differently in the training, or even for Newcastle's sake, what could have we done different in the travel or anything like that? Was it, smart not training on the at AC Milan and all that sort of stuff? Because they're not in this position because they're deal-witted. Do you know what I mean? So I think they'll look at it naturally anyway. So it's just it was just interesting to like you said, Daz, there, that it was that Michael Carrick, Sir Alex Ferguson-esque era that was used in the same breath that Eddie Howe was a player from that same era as well. That they both are young managers that are maybe believe in that sort of harder, harsher training methods that have led to both teams having shocking injury seasons, which was it was an interesting read, but one, as you say, you take with a grain of salt.
Newcastle are going to do a review of this season. I mean, that's a key for everybody. Eddie Howe will probably want to know, why maybe when people have come back from a long-term layoff, have they not been able to, then continue? We've seen a few cases where Eddie's taken his time bringing somebody back into the team, and then they've broken back down again quite quickly. But ultimately. It's sometimes it's just down to every player's individual. Not every player's the same. That's that's the other thing, that just because something's going to happen to Callum Wilson doesn't mean it's the same as going to happen to Sven Botman. So it just depends. Plus, I think the difference with Newcastle this season has been that there has been pressure. And it's an internal pressure, no matter whether Eddie thinks that exists or not, and there's an external pressure from the supporters. There's an expectation. Newcastle finished fourth. They went ahead of schedule. They finished fourth. They got to a cup final. So it's only human nature for supporters to suddenly get excited at the start of the season, especially when we brought in Tonali and go, we're going to do it again. This team can perform like that one season. Why can't they do it again? But there's so many factors to take into consideration. Newcastle lost Tonali through no fault of their own, which suddenly meant you had one of your star signings was out. Harvey Barnes got injured early season, so your two main players that you've spent most of your budget on now can't play, and then that really just started the this snowball at the top of the mountain rolling, and it's just gone from bad to worse. The Champions League was exciting, and everybody enjoyed travelling to the games. We enjoyed the Champions League nights on Tyneside, and we had some wonderful games and wonderful results and some great memories created. But at the same time, we ended up crashing out. But we had to cope with that whole that whole kind of procedure of going on away trips and then playing a Premier League game the next weekend. It's interesting because I've been speaking to a few of the ex-players over the last few weeks, the entertainers, and speaking to a few of the people involved behind the scenes. I've been speaking to Derek Fazakli, the coach who was part of the Keegan setup. I spoke to Derek Wright, the physio, and I was asking them about that particular season when Newcastle got back into the Premier League for the first time, after we'd won the championship, and I said to them that first season we qualified for Europe. Did you notice a change back in the 90s from going from just playing those Premier League games in the FA Cup and the League Cup and then suddenly being thrust into European competition? And they all said no, and the players just said, we were excited. It was, there was a momentum at the club and we were just looking forward to it. So, what's changed since the 1990s to now? What has changed? Is it the mentality? Are footballers lazier? Is it the, is the game harder? How can it be harder? It's harder to understand the rules, but is it harder to play football now since the 1990s? Why do modern day footballers? Or is it just an excuse that's suddenly, again, something that the media have said, oh well, it's going to be hard this season because we've got Europe to contend with and all this travelling. But look, they're not going on a charabanc, driving across 7 continents to get to a game. They're getting into an aeroplane, they're flying 3.5 hours, they're getting picked up at the other end, they're not having to catch a bus or something, or thumb a lift. That these modern day footballers are getting treated like royalty. So why is it hard? You know what I mean? And instead of training at your training ground, getting in your car, getting up and training, it's just a change of routine. Is this just a modern day excuse that's being created? It's fascinating for me to hear people from a period like the 90s say this. So with Borough, again, your injuries have you've just been unlucky. And we've got to say Sunderland as well. I mean, there was a period with Sunderland when, obviously Ted's not here this morning, but he would agree anyway. When Sunderland couldn't put a defender out, they had no defenders. Yep. Do you remember that? Yep,
I do. Yeah, start of the season they had a shocking run there, didn't they? So, it's been across the northeast, and I don't think if we were looking abreast at the whole league, we'd probably argue there's probably teams out there that would argue that they've had worse injuries as well. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think it's maligned to us. It's just that we talk every day that you sort of hear every day there's a new injury from one of our clubs, and you just sort of go, well, hang on, what's happening here, sort of thing. And one of the things that I think, Steve, that I'll think back about a lot is that Dan Byrne podcast that he spoke about when you sent me that link. I often think back to that and just listening to him, because he's a mature age footballer. He's been there, he's been around, he's done it a fair bit, and to hear what his thoughts on it were I thought was really, really interesting insight into the life of a footballer that is in the Champions League, and it was really interesting and an eye opener there as well. So look, Middlesbrough haven't had any more games. Yes, we went on a cup run, you know what I mean? That was probably a bit more heavier schedule than we planned for, but it's no Champions League, week in, week out, plus all the other FA Cups and stuff. So it is. I think it's a luck thing, and we wouldn't be putting the blame on Michael Carrick, nor would I be putting the blame on Eddie Howe. I think they're both fantastic young managers, and respectively, we're both in the top half, aren't we? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If we were down the bottom, of course, question it. But when you're sitting 7th and and 8th like we are, it's working. You know what I mean? Like, that's where you want to be. You know what I mean? So you can't question it too much without looking at the results and the way we're playing. Yes, if we had the shocking run that we had at the start of the season continue, you know what I mean, then of course you would look into it a bit further. But when when Newcastle and Middlesbrough are sitting where they are, you've got to give credit where credit's due, that Eddie and Michael are doing something correct, I would argue.
No, I would agree. It's been, look, this season, if we finish 9th, we don't get European football. This season has been an amazing achievement with the injuries that we've had. You know what I mean? We've had a great run in the Champions League, which came to an end in the group of death. But we got to the later stages of another cup competition. Okay, we didn't get to Wembley, but we've had some fantastic, exciting games, seen some wonderful, exciting goals, and we haven't been involved in a relegation battle, which is once upon a time was satisfactory.
Exactly.
And I think if we do finish 9th and don't get European football, then we can turn round. We can turn round this year and just go, well, now next year we've got to kick on. We've got something to aim for, So it'll be the reverse next season, and we'll have Tonali back, and we'll have some new signings in, and there'll be a feeling of optimism around the club again. So yeah, look, that's what it is. That's what life's all about, being a North East football fan. Okay, we're gonna have a quick break, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk the strips. 033 043 2002. Any WhatsApps before we go to the break?
Not at the moment. No. We'll do some. We'll have a look after the break, because the system is just throwing a little bit of a wobbler on the WhatsApp side. So I'll check that out during the break. I'll let you know.
From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swarwell to Silverlink, the North East Footy Breakfast with Roy, Steve, and Ted.
Right across the northeast, the red, the tune, and the cat.
Okay, welcome back to the North East Footy Brekky Show strips. This is the next talking point, Rye. Have you got a strip that you love? I mean, maybe you have one from Middlesbrough, but also, is there another strip that you from another club or an international strip that you love? Newcastle, of course, got the Adidas strip set to be unveiled June the 7th. We know, because of this this ongoing court case between Sports Direct and the football club. Newcastle are going to have 3 strips coming out: the first strip, the second strip, and of course the third. But yeah, have you got a strip that you prefer or love, or wear around the house, or wear when you're out and about?
I've got a 2004 when I first started following Middlesbrough. I've got the Mark Schwarzer kit, because he was my idol, and it wasn't back then. I feel I don't know, especially here in Australia, it was something rare to sort of have the goalkeeper kit, and it was something I was quite proud of, because I walk around here not only with this sort of bright sort of old school goalkeeping kit on, but no one knew about Middlesbrough back then, especially with the still struggles we have it today. So I'm a bit proud of this 2004 Mark Schwarzer goalkeeping kit that I've got. But the best one I think I've got is the 97 Socceroos top, which was when we were managed by Eltel, and we went and did our amazing run, and we took the CONCACAF to Brazil right to the final. We ultimately lost it, but it was the moment that I feel. I think most Australians would feel, especially in the football scene, if you've been around long enough, that it was sort of the changing of the guard in terms of the football sort of landscape of here in Australia. It was at that time where we sort of realised that we can be a footballing nation. We've got a good team here, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of Australians that love football, and there's a very multicultural sort of aspect to Australia that we're starting to believe and love football. Love football. So yeah, this 97. Socceroos or Australia top that I've got as well is in my pride and joy. But I'd have to say that and the Schwarzer one from the 2004 when I first started following the Borough were two of my ultimate replica, I guess, historic kits.
Daz, have you got a particular top that you like from Middlesbrough?
Yeah, I mean, I like the just the 70s, the white band, the red shirt, white band, very simplistic. Yes. I've got an old one of those that comes out every now and then, which is a fond memory, because that's the kit I had as a kid. So you have, I mean, not the same one, obviously.
Bit of a tight squeeze.
Yeah, I love to know where that went. But so that's a sort of favourite of mine. I do like that. There was the Paul Merson year that were the. Back to the Premier League as that, and we had it was the way they had a blue with a white Y that ran sort of vertically down, sorry, the front, selling it on the front. That's, and I think again that's a memory of Paul Merson. I just remember him in that shirt and what he did for us. But I think, you know, one of my favourite, and I had one of these as a kid, and I've got one of these as an adult as well, is the England 1982 World Cup top. So where it had sort of like lines of blue, red, and a thin blue line across the shoulder. Iconic from that 82 World Cup. That was the first World Cup I remember as a kid. You know, that was the one where this is football. This is the World Cup, and I just loved that kit. There was something about that kit. So I had that, and I've still got an adult version of that now, which comes out whenever England play. So yeah, that's it for me. What about you, Steve?
For me, it's the 83-84 home and away for Newcastle, the Blue Star strip.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people love the Entertainers Grandad colour and the blue and purple stripes, but I prefer the 83-84. It was my first season. So the home kit was black and white stripes, of course, Blue Star in the middle, and the old NUFC grey badge in the corner. And the away strip is something which I've always felt Newcastle should have as their second strip, which is a grey strip. It had the Blue Star in the middle, it had the black NUFC badge in the corner, it had like a V-neck, and it had the Blue Star in the middle, but it had pinstripes. It was grey with pinstripes.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now, yeah.
It's a wonderful, wonderful top. It's simple, but nobody else had a grey away kit. And I always felt that it was just something that suited Newcastle, black and white and grey, two dark colours. I just, I loved it. And there was another grey top which wasn't as good, but I still liked it, which was probably a little bit later. I think it was 85, 86. Newcastle went for an all grey top, and it had a Blue Star in the middle with a NUFC badge on. But I don't know, it's just something about grey as a colour with the Blue Star, really, really, synonymous again with success, I guess, because it was a side which had Keegan, Waddle, Beardsley playing, and didn't win the league that year. You'd think they did, but we actually went up third when before the playoffs. We finished third and went up behind Sheffield Wednesday and Chelsea that season. But yeah, I mean, synonymous with Keegan as well. Keegan's last season as a football player. But special because it's my first season as a Newcastle fan.
Yeah.
Me other top, the one I would pick from another club international is the Italia 1990 top. That shirt. Obviously, that tournament is still my favourite World Cup as a football fan. Gaza and the Tears and Turin, and Waddle and Beardsley playing, and Gary Lineker on fire, and Sir Bobby Robson managing after all the stick he'd had before the World Cup kicked off. He was leaving, so this was going to be his final hurrah kind of thing. But that strip is wonderful. And when I was actually gutted when the original strip it was no longer worth wearing. I think I took it on a few lads' holidays. It'd seen better days, shall we say. Sweat patches under the arms, chili sauce on the front which wouldn't come out. The score, lads. The score.
Yes,
yes. It was just time to cast it aside and chuck it in the bin. But years later, when replica strips became a thing, and retro shirts became a thing, they brought it out again. I was over the moon, and now I've got one which I like to wear if I'm on holiday or whatever. If it gets a bit warm, I love to wear it. So it's and that was a great tournament. So I think it's probably down to the fact, A, it looks good, but B, it reminds you of a wonderful World Cup team and a World Cup performance, which really should have led to England winning the tournament. But
right, the memories attached to it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it is. From your perspective, like your Australia national shirt, it probably keeps. It stays the same, doesn't it? The orange and
it does.
The gold and green. It's always very similar. I think England mess around with their tops too much. We're seeing all the we're seeing the recent furore over the fact that they changed the colour of the St George's badge. Obviously, we were talking last week about the number 44 not being allowed on the German strip because it looked like the SS insignia. But I sometimes think a lot of this stuff is done really just for publicity to try and let the shirt go. And this ongoing dispute at the moment, it's in the High Court between Sports Direct and Newcastle United, because Newcastle are now doing what Leicester City have done, actually, which has signed an exclusivity deal with JD Sports, which means that Sports Direct won't be able to sell the tops. I don't believe Mike Ashley, reading the case file yesterday and the review of the case file yesterday, Mike Ashley hasn't objected to Leicester and a couple of other teams who've gone down the same road, but he has objected to Newcastle doing this. Now, is this a bit of sour grapes, do you think? Because ultimately Newcastle now aren't owned by Mike Ashley, and he still has a little bit of a bee in his bonnet about Newcastle. It does seem to feel like that.
Yeah, 100%. It is. Yeah, I mean, it's a man possessed, isn't it? And if there's any sort of way of getting back at them, I think we saw towards the end of Mike Ashley era, wasn't it? The tenure was he became hated by the town, by the people that loved the club, and you don't forget that. He would have been around the area. He would have had I dare say he would have had threats and all this sort of stuff to get out of the club, and we saw the banners and all that sort of stuff, and it could have crossed the line, you know what I mean, for him. And it's not something, you think about moments in your lifetime where you've had a run-in with someone, or something's happened that's gone really poorly, and it's someone that has had this ultimate hatred for you. Well, you don't forget it, or you've had this fight or whatever it may be, it stays with you, with the bullying and all this sort of stuff. Well, Mike Ashley's the same. He's a human being, and he would have, he'd be feeling that sort of wrath from that tenure. And if there's any way of him getting back at the club, then especially through a legal sort of standpoint, which he's got the money to do so, then that's what he's going to do, isn't it? And it's unfortunate that there seems to be always things with football, doesn't it, that's going to play outside of the pitch sometimes, which as a fan you have no control of.
It seems that Mike Ashley's main complaint, I'm just reading through this again, which I read yesterday, but they've argued that damages would not be an adequate remedy in this instance, because the retailer would suffer 3 types of losses from Newcastle's exclusive arrangement with JD Sports. Immediate harm in terms of the loss of sales of the replica kits, indirect loss of sales, and loss of reputation. So basically what they're saying is that if Newcastle players who used to go in, Newcastle fans who used to go in and buy the shirts in Sports Direct, the halo effect is that they would then go on and buy some other products, which I find really interesting, that he feels it's going to impact on his business that much, not selling the kits. I mean, it is an intriguing legal battle, this Daz, between Sports Direct, Mike Ashley, of course, and Newcastle United Football Club. The club deny that that this would be the case. They say that it wouldn't affect Sports Direct as much, and they highlighted the fact that Sports Direct and Mike Ashley, the relationship with the supporters, which is what Rise just pointed out, was so toxic that it led to fan boycotts, not just of the retailer but also of the club. He also mentioned, he says, you've also seen the evidence, anecdotal I accept, of this action being brought, and it's not gone down well, he said. So I mean, this is a huge battle, because Newcastle are following in the footsteps here of Leicester City that I've already mentioned, Celtic, Leeds United, and they've got tripartite arrangements to sell the Adidas kits exclusively through JD Sports. So the legal eagles and the solicitors and barristers have reminded the person presiding over this that Sports Direct have not launched a case against any of the other clubs who've adopted these arrangements for a number of years beforehand. This isn't just something that's happened this week or last week. This is something that's gone on for years. So it does look like Ashley's simply gone, oh well, this is Newcastle United, this is different.
I'm just thinking about it from the other perspective. How much harm would it be if they allowed Sports Direct to sell the strips through the club? The reason they don't want Sports Direct to do it is because Sports Direct discount the strips. Okay, right.
Okay.
Right.
And that in effect would mean that more people would go and buy the strip from Sports Direct and it would affect his sales in other places. But that's Newcastle United's choice, I guess. If they choose to go through JD Sports exclusively, then that's their choice, isn't it?
Yeah, and they've obviously offered them. They've said to them, look, we won't sell below a certain price. So we're not. It's not as if we'll then be competing against you in the club shops and etc. and the online. So I understand that. I just wondered, whether there was still a little bit of beef from the club with this one, and Mike Ashley, but I mean, it's up to the club, isn't it? The club make the final decisions on this. It's a marketing decision, you would hope, at the end of the day. Ultimately, what they want is the most shirts sold at the best price. That's what you go into shirt deals for. Let's not make no bones about it. This is a revenue thing. This is income. This is to help support the club. And not that I'm thinking they're short of a penny or two, but with all the should I mention it, the FFP stuff. Income from kits and things like that is important. So of course the club want to get the best deal out of it. It's I don't know. I think looking at it from the other side of it as well, like Ryan was saying, it's just like, you just feel like saying, "Are we actually just give it a rest?" What? Why aren't you doing this with the other clubs?
Yeah,
that are doing this. It's almost like another way of him just getting into the Newcastle psyche. Of just getting at the fans again. There's part of me that thinks, well, maybe that's his. That's his motivation, I'm still here. I'm still causing bother for the club. I'm still making headlines. Sports Direct. I pop in.
But that's it, isn't it? That's what he's been good at for years. Putting his brand in the spotlight, and even if it's something as negative as this, what Mike Ashley knows is that on social media, in the newspapers, programs like this morning, we're discussing it because it is big news concerning the football club, and he knows that kind of traction will lead to more people. So there will be, believe it or not, people out there who've never heard of Sports Direct who will go, "Oh, they do sports gear, do they?" So in essence, he really gets free advertising off the back of any controversy or any drama that involves him or Newcastle United. So I guess, from a marketing point of view, it's a smart move, right?
Yeah, it is not wrong. I mean, it gets it out there, doesn't it? I mean, it like you said, with the England tops, that sometimes you think the social media sort of, it can't be good, can it? Do you know what I mean? Even if Nike, Adidas, or these types of, don't create this sort of the issue itself. They're not going to shut it down, are they? Because it gets everyone talking about the kit. You know what I mean? So, and it gets sales up because you're then looking at it going, and it only takes one or two people to go, well, hang on, that's actually a nice kit. And you know what I mean? And then you get it. Or if it is such a furore or a massive story within the thing, then you get the people that collect them and go, remember this kit? I had this from when this happened, and this. You know what I mean? Remember with the the Union Jack and all that being like this. Well, I've got that kit still, sort of thing, and collectors go like down that route as well. So yeah, it's sometimes, honestly, any drama is good drama for sales.
Yeah. Okay, we are at 8 o'clock. That's the first hour done. We will be back after some news headlines and a little bit of music.
From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swalwell to Silverlink, the Northeast Footy Breakfast with Roy, Steve and Ted.
Right across the Northeast, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
And you can get in touch with the Northeast Footy Brekky at any time you like via the WhatsApp. We're having one or two issues with it this morning, but you can send your messages through to 0330 or 43 2002. If you've got a favourite kit, whether it's your local team or national team, we'd love to hear from you this morning.
Welcome to the North East Footy Brekky Show, into the second hour already, and plenty to talk about in this second hour. Me and Rye and Daz holding the fort this morning. You alright, chaps?
Good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Doing really
I'm
well,
good,
yeah.
mate. I'm good, and Rye's not too bad considering the 2-2 draw against Hull City last night.
Yep, not too bad at all. A point taken is better than a point lost, that's for sure. But still upset at my work. Shout out to you, to my boss as well, who'd be listening in. I hate you. You should have let me watch the bar.
And there's a P45 on its way to Rye as we speak. As I say, plenty to talk about. We are looking for your favourite strips of all time, whether that be Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough, or somebody else. 033 043 2002 is the WhatsApp number to text us on. But as always, we'll start the second hour with some club updates.
Smoggies and Proud. Borough News.
Good morning, Borough fans. Happy Thursday. Middlesbrough playing out from the back was under the microscope again, as it cost them a goal in a 2-2 draw with Hull City last night that could have huge implications in the race for the Championship's top 6. Manuel Latte-Lath continued his fine scoring form with a tidy finish from a tight angle, his 11th goal in the Championship this season, and Finn Azaz, who would ultimately decide the match after a great counter and interception by Borough. Moving it from one end of the pitch to the other was a sign of how good a free-flowing Borough can actually look. With both sides chasing Norwich City in a 6 spot down, the draw wasn't particularly useful to either. Though perhaps slightly better for Hull, who do have a game in hand, than for Borough, but it does move them within 6 points of the Canaries, but with only 4 games remaining. A bullish Michael Carrick said he was refusing to give up on Borough's hopes, however insisting he and his side would continue fighting to the very bitter end as they look to overturn that 6-point gap. Carrick was also equally defiant when questioned on Hull City's second goal too, in which in hindsight at full time proved an important one. Speaking about that moment when Seni Dieng played Lewis O'Brien into trouble, which allowed that Gene Michael Seri to score, Carrick said, "We believe in it a lot, yes, we got caught today, and if we didn't, we might have won the game. But that's football. I think we scored the first goal from kind of playing it out at the back, so I've got no problem with that. I stick to what I believe in, and this is a system that works, trust me." Michael Carrick defiant there as well, saying Middlesbrough will not give up on the playoffs until the game and seasons are over. Oh well, up the Borough, 6 points to close. On to Ipswich this weekend. That's your updates.
Mackems and Proud. Black Cats News.
Good morning, Sunderland fans. Here are your Sunderland updates this Thursday morning. It's a potential double reunion looming this weekend at the Hawthorns, as former Sunderland loan favourite Jan Mvia prepares to face the Black Cats in a West Brom shirt, while pantomime villain Josh Madger could also be available. However, he's facing a race against time to be fit. Elsewhere, it could be a North East goalkeeper merry-go-round this summer, as Arsenal appear more likely to offload Aaron Ramsdale, with Newcastle United a rumoured destination. This does increase the likelihood that they'll test Sunderland's resolve for highly rated number 1 Anthony Patterson, although as previously stated on the show, there are a number of clubs monitoring his situation. And finally, whilst the season is all but over for Sunderland with their hopes of consecutive playoff finishes gone, that does not mean that the players should give up. Instead, it should mean that the players should want to give our loyal fan base something to cheer about in what has been a poor season overall. That's exactly what Chris Riggs' mindset seems to be, as he posted on Instagram following the draw with Leeds, saying, "A good point against a good side, let's end the season strong." Couldn't say fairer than that, Ricky. That's your update.
Magpies and Proud. Mags News.
Newcastle United's final home game of the season against Brighton isn't among the live TV picks, and therefore remains a 3 o'clock start on Saturday, May the 11th. Meanwhile, our postponed Premier League visit to Manchester United will now be staged on Wednesday, May the 15th with an 8 o'clock kick-off. That's live on Sky Sports, which leaves only confirmation of whether our final day visit to Brentford will be selected for live UK TV, although that would have no bearing on the kick-off, already set for 4 o'clock on Sunday, May the 19th. Brighton's scheduling is bad news for any season ticket holders that were hoping to attend Gateshead's FA Trophy final at Wembley, which also takes place on the 11th of May. Newcastle United have taken Arsenal youth goalkeeper Noah Cooper on trial. Cooper, who joined the Gunners from Crystal Palace as a schoolboy, is on the lookout for a new club after being informed he won't be offered a professional contract for Mikel Arteta's side. He progressed through the ranks at Arsenal and has been promoted to the under-21s last year, after spending 2 seasons with the under-18s set up in Newcastle United head coach Eddie Howe should get more credit for the job he's doing at St James's Park this season, according to former Magpie striker Louis Sahar. The United boss has seen his side struggle to match the heights of last season's top 4 finish, but they're still on course for another European adventure if they can end the campaign strongly. Speaking to Paddy Power, Sahar said he expected this season to be a challenge for Newcastle, but that Eddie Howe has managed to do really well, and that the manager should get the credit. He's done really well, he's managed to gel the team well, and he's nurtured young players and given them confidence to perform. He's done a really good job this season. Hear, hear. That's your headlines on Thursday the 11th of April.
From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swarwell to Silverlink, the North East Footy Breakfast with Roy, Steve and Ted.
Right across the northeast, the red, the toon and the cat.
Now, before we get to Steve's X-Files, we've had a complaint. Now, the WhatsApp system's been playing up this morning, but you said we've had a complaint, Daz.
Yeah, we've had a complaint this morning.
Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, I don't know what to say, really. I
mean, goes to America, and look, it's our first one, I think.
Yeah. It's basically it's from someone who's claiming not to be Ted from Cyprus.
I don't think it is.
And basically what they're asking for is some more Sunderland coverage, really. I don't know. What do you think, lads?
Newcastle and Borough.
Yeah,
well, I've got 2 words to say.
Yeah.
Turn up. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to cancel the X-Files for 5 minutes and we'll talk about Sunderland. Because it is on my list, which you're fully aware of, because you get the list. But because you're not here, you can't talk about it. And instead, you've had to send in a recording. Unbelievable. Can I get the staff? Dave, if you're listening, can I get the staff? Dave, the mic, just because Dave's off. Put the signal in.
I got teased.
All right. Sunderland's legend, Marco Gabbiadini, says Dodds is out of his depth. Interesting this because Dodds obviously went down to Leeds with his team, got a 0-0 draw at Leeds. Ted was delighted with that draw.
He was.
He saw. But yeah, I mean, Gabbiadini, works on another radio station. Often talks about Sunderland and doesn't go to many games. It's got to be said. Gary Bennett's the reporter, on match day for this particular radio station. But Gabbiadini, he says Dodds is out of his depth. Clearly wants a new manager in. We're going to hear what Ted thinks first before me and Ryan and Daz discuss this. Ted, over to you.
Morning, lads. I knew you couldn't last without us, so I thought I'd just have my little say on the Marco Gabbiadini thing, talking about Mike Dodds. The question is, is Gabbiadini right to say that Dodds is out of his depth? And I think it's all about context, lads. In terms of the context, is he out of his depth as a head coach of Sunderland Football Club? Yeah, I think he is, absolutely. That's been proven with the form since he took over from the ill-fated Michael Beale era. And the signs were there as well before we got Beale. All right, Doddsy got 2 good results early doors. But then, you could argue that was Mowbray's tactics and Mowbray's team that he took on from it, and the games were already prepared. We did start to look a little bit shaky after that. I think the Coventry game probably springs to mind as a prime example of that. This time around, I think it's been proven that he's too much of a tinker man. I don't think he knows in his own mind what he wants. However, as a coach, and I know I may have slammed him recently for that, but I think that's more frustrating at what was going on. I don't like the fact that he was brought in by Speakman. I do believe there are a certain amount of yes men in the club that ideally either need to go or need to move with the change that is needed in the structure of the club. Having said that, he's masterminded a 0-0 draw against Leeds there and developed the shape of the team, which proves he must have some coaching credentials there. To go to Leeds, set up the way we did, defend well, and still want more in terms of possessional play and be critical of that with the players. He hasn't shied away from that. I think it would have been very easy to do that. But the simple fact is he's not a head coach. He's not even been a first team coach all that long. Bearing in mind Birmingham, he was a youth team coach there. Obviously, influential with both Bellingham brothers, and now one of them is continuing to sort of flourish under his guidance there. But as far as being a head coach, lads, no, he is out of his depth. But then, so a lot of people are. Gareth Ainsworth has proved that by going to a championship club, as vastly experienced as Gareth Ainsworth is, he's just not cut out for the championship. It is a very, very difficult league. You could stand up that championship against a lot of top leagues in Europe and it would be competitive. So I don't think it's any disgrace that Dodsey isn't up to the job, that he is out of his depth. As a head coach, like I said, right at the top I said it's all about context. And the context is he's a coach in a football club who's been asked to fulfill a role that he's got no right and no desire really to take on either. He's made that clear. It's not for him. He wants to go back to coaching. I would like to see him involved. It would be a backward step for him. I'd like to see him more involved with the academy. I think that's a kind of a good level for him, and that's not being demeaning to him in any way. But yeah, that's about where I see his level. A first team coach at a push, yes. There are definitely some signs there that he knows what he's doing on the training pitch. Just like Michael Beale, though, he's not a head coach, lads, and we need better than that. So yeah, bring on Big Sam or Will Still or whoever you want. I'm saying that with half a smile on my face, but yeah, it ain't Mike Dodds and it never will be. But that's no disrespect to him. We're thankful for what he's done under very, very trying circumstances for our club, and we live to fight another season. Catch us later, lads.
Cheers, Ted, for that. I mean, I quite like this, actually, the way that Ted's done this morning, is that...
What did he say?
Well, no, we're in control of him talking.
I muted him, sorry. I didn't hear what he was talking about.
No, maybe we should just try this every day. He just phones it in, and we're in control of it.
Goes on a holiday and just gets to phone in. Okay, yeah.
I thought it was his news headlines.
Thank you for that, Ted, this morning. I mean, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? This, I mean, it's something that happens, isn't it? Former players having their say. It's just like us. We're all entitled to our opinions. Exactly. But I think it's fair to say that Ted agrees with him, and we've been saying it for a few weeks now. They need to get someone in. It's getting silly now. And I know they're saying, we're going to wait at the end of the season, not rush the decision, blah 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 blah. Well, get someone in, give him a hand now. He needs a hand. And all right, he steadied the ship a little bit recently with a win and a couple of draws, but how he clearly needs some help, and getting someone in now will help plan for the summer, will help formulate a plan for the summer, will help bring things together. Exactly. And I just don't it can only be that they're waiting for someone, waiting for someone to either come out of contract or end of the season with their team. And that's all I can think of why they're waiting, because let's face it, they've made enough bad decisions this season already, and I know Ted will agree with that.
Yeah, right. I mean, just before we go to the traffic and travel, it's it's obvious that he's not going to be the man who's going to lead Sunderland next season, and Heckenbottom seems to be favourite. I've heard some Sunderland fans against that. Others seem quite happy. Ted seems quite happy with that appointment if that goes ahead. But Dodds isn't the man. I don't think Gabbiadini's got it wrong.
No, I don't think he has, and I don't think he's far off the mark. But the one thing I look at is it Mike Dodds' fault to cop this criticism when he's been asked to do a job twice now from the fatalities of their leadership? You know what I mean? I mean, if I was promoted into a job because my senior, my hierarchy had failed the company, then I'd be frustrated. I'd be angry. Do you know what I mean? And then if I was to cop criticism for the job that I've been asked to do because my head honchos had let the company down again, then how am I to be at fault of that? Do you know what I mean? And it's I'm just doing what you've asked me to do. And to be honest with you, a lot of the young players seem to love Mike Dodds. I mean, Bellingham was saying that it's the reason he's got to where he is, even though it's not nowhere near his brother, but he says it's all down to Mike Dodds, and that even when Michael Beale and Tony Moga were there, and that Mike Dodds still was very, very influential on the younger players. So yeah, it's a mess, and they need to sort it. And
like Ted said,
I ultimately feel sorry for Doddsy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and like Ted said, he's probably that's where he's got a place within the the youth team or the the under 21s. That's probably his level. But dealing with the whole club, with everything that goes with it, is clearly not his level. And he's had a couple of decent tryouts at it, but it's that plan is not working out. Let's go for plan D.
It was the right idea, because they made a balls up by appointing Beale, and to suddenly appoint another permanent manager without giving it a degree of thought was the right thing to do. So Kirill might have made the mistake with Beale, but he didn't make a mistake this time round, and now they'll take that time to get the right person in position. And look, they've got to count themselves lucky, because any Sunderland fan, Middlesbrough fan or Newcastle fan will tell you what happens when you appoint numerous managers during a season. You usually get relegated. So for Sunderland to end up staying in the division, they're in a decent place, and it's only their second season back in the Championship after promotion. So ultimately, from their perspective, it's it's probably where you would expect to be. Disappointed probably from the playoffs last season. The playoff shout last season. But look, they'll build, they'll go again. But Kirill's got to get this. He's got to get this appointment right this time round. And Heckingbottom seems the favourite. If he comes in, by the sounds of it, I think a lot of Sunderland fans will be keen. Okay, 8:25. We're going to have a little bit of traffic and travel, and then we're going to open my X-File.
From Wickham to Whitley Bay, Stonygate to Shields, Doggy to Darlow Backlane, Steve, Ted and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
It's Steve's X-Files. X-Files. X-Files.
X-Files. X-Files. X-Files.
It's great, isn't it? I love it. I love this little this little intro. So what are the X-Files? Well, it's when we go onto X, formerly known as Twitter, and we just see what is trending. And this could always lead to legal action for Dave Roberts and all of the studios. I do have to sometimes check what on earth this particular thing is that is trending. But I do just like what we can't get into legal trouble is when we just read out what's trending. So today, Phoenix Knights, Marvel Studios, The Masters, Paul Scholes, The Post Office, and Happy Birthday Abby. So where we're going to go, lads? Where we're going to go? Phoenix Knights. Let's start with that. Garlic bread. Was Phoenix Knights a thing in Australia, Rye? Or have you seen it?
No, I've got no idea.
So have you heard of Peter Kay, the comedian?
Yeah, I have. Yes, love him. Yeah.
So Peter Kay wrote it and starred in it, and it's about a failing. It's about a failing working man's club in Bolton, where he lives. It's like that kind of vibe. But you must watch it, mate. Especially the inflatable in the car park episode.
Okay.
I'll say no more. Daz, Phoenix Knights fan?
Absolutely. Can you hear me now? I mean, it's iconic, isn't it? It is brilliant. There's so many bits. I love his alarm on his car. That just makes me laugh. Obviously, I can't repeat that this morning. There's so much when the guys get out of the minibus and you go, how far away are they? There's just so many iconic lines. The stair lift when he's taking her up to bed. It's just so. So why is it trending? Is there some news about coming back?
No, and this is the problem with X. You know, something starts trending because somebody's put something up, like a clip of a particular episode, and then suddenly it just goes wild. Everybody suddenly starts commenting about it because they think there is big news. So there's no big news, sadly, about that. There is big news about the Masters, of course, if you're a golf fanatic.
Yes.
The Masters kicks off over the course of the weekend, and it's going to be interesting because the best golfers in the world come together and ply their trade and try and win the green jacket, which is an ultimate privilege. Are you a golfer or are you a golfing fan, right?
I used to be, mate, until my shoulder surgery, which I have then tried to adopt a left arm swing, which not going to lie, it's not good. But I still enjoy it. I still love it. Love the Masters, and I still always want to take me back to the Peter Daly, the John Daly, era of his cigarette in mouth, pint in hand, and having a swing at it. So, but no, I do love the golf. Love the Masters. Love watching it, especially following some of the Aussie golfers.
I'm the same. I mean, I was a bit of a fair weather golfer. I went through a stage of playing golf, but I've got to be honest, I haven't got time in the day to spend walking around a golf course for 4 hours. Then getting there and back, having an hour in the clubhouse with the lads afterwards. It's great. It's an enjoyable pastime, but it takes up too many hours in the day for me. There's some awful wet weather and windy weather hitting Augusta over the course of the weekend, which I hope doesn't spoil it too much, but does. For me, it's just great to watch it. It's a good TV sport.
Yes, yeah, it is, and it's one of the big prestigious events. There'll be a lot of fuss about it, won't they? It'll be. I'm sure it'll be a tight competition, and there's always surprise. Runners, people that you've not heard of that come through. I'm like you. Steve, I wish I could play more golf, but I don't. It's just a time thing. And I also wish I could sit down and watch more golf, because it is a really, it can get really exciting sport. Life's busy, isn't it? And I always used to say when I used to play golf, my problem was I used to stand too close to the ball after I'd hit it. So that was my problem.
You've got people sitting at home going too close to the ball
after he's hit it. What? Yeah. Just to think that one through. Yeah.
Tyson Fury is also trending, and this stems from an interview where he said that he's going to have 10 more fights before he fights Anthony Joshua.
What?
Basically, this is all the build-up, of course, to his fight against Alexander Usyk next month, and there's one interview he's done where he said he's planned another 10 fights, because he wants to make as much money as he can out of boxing before he retires, and that Anthony Joshua was not even in his mind. So it looks, we were hoping that this big super fight was closer than ever, but at the moment, according to Tyson Fury in one interview, it looks like it's even further away than it ever was. So we will keep an eye on that. But I've got to be honest, I am looking forward to it, right? Whatever happens, I'm looking forward to Fury against Usyk next month.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great fight, that one, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's a shame that he comes out and says that and talks like that. He just sort of puts a whole dampener on it, doesn't he? But look, I still think it's on the cards. He must know that it's a big pay packet, waiting for him there when he wants it. But still a shame that he's trending because he doesn't want the fight. Rishi was trending because AJ called him out and he can't run anymore. Come on, stop running.
Yeah, and big fights don't come along very often, but Fury against Usyk is going to be a classic, and let's just hope that the promoters behind the scenes, if Fury wins that fight, can get Fury versus Joshua ready for the back end of the year.
Well, that's what we're all wanting to see, isn't it? And surely they must know that. They must do, mustn't they? And are they building the suspense to this? Are they building the payday price for it? You've got to ask that. Is there some clever marketing here going on? Because that's what the people want to see. So yeah, come on, just bring it on, will you?
I agree.
And the whole thing about boxing promoting, you know this better than anyone, Steve. How it works. It is all about publicity. It's about momentum. It's about getting the right build up to it, getting the right venue to it. but you know, there's so much anticipation over this one. They've got to get it over the line.
Yeah, fingers crossed. The last part of the X-Files today, I got excited when I saw Punk trending this morning, and I was thinking John Lydon and Sid Vicious and, you know, the Sex Pistols, have they announced a new tour? The Clash was on there as well. I'm thinking of the, you know, is there a new box set coming out? It turns out there was a wrestler, a wrestler called Joe Punk, sticking his middle finger up at people in the crowd. I mean, wow, is this really news? I don't even know who he is. Who is this guy? Who is this guy?
No idea.
Change your name, mate, so that I don't get excited on X in the future when I see Punk trending. But yes, that is it today. No legal cases for Dave Roberts. He'll be over the moon.
Kept it safe.
He has. I do, though, want to point out something which I think you guys will find interesting. And this was, I do like reading reviews on things. Reddit sometimes is one of the best places to find reviews. Now, we've all heard about the Granger Market in Newcastle. If you haven't, Google it. Right, it's a lovely shopping centre. It's stood the test of time. It's getting a big refurb. But the Granger Market in Newcastle it's got lots of little stalls in, butchers, bakers, candlestick makers. You know, some wonderful little food outlets now, and it's just the design of it is fantastic. It's old school, you know. But I've got to be honest, whenever you go in there, you can get confused as to where you're going and which exit and entrance you've come in. I'm really pleased that somebody decided to take to Reddit with such a comprehensive description. It reads like this: I'm convinced the Granger Market has some strange portal-like qualities. I know it's only a square shape essentially, but the shops are rarely where they were the day before. It seems that the pizza slice gaff can only be unlocked by going down at least 2 other aisles first, then returning to the initial one, only to find it's right there where you were before. Following the smell of the meat will not help you either. That leads you back to the fishmongers rather than the butchers. The smell of the coffee will take you away from the Turkish cafe and towards Pumphrey's in the open plan safe zone, or further afield to some kind of fabric bargain joint, or one of the cake shops that are somehow in the metro centre. From what I can ascertain, the centre of the building is rotating and changing the entrance holes so that you're always one aisle away from where you thought you came in. This makes sense, because a lady in one of the fabric stores seemed to be giving me a look that said, "Beware, you are in a rotating building." All I know is whoever designed this market is a maniac that wants you to spend all your money on fish cakes, Dr. Martens, meat and fabrics, and then get weighed before being allowed some pizza. 4 out of 10. Livid. We'll go again.
Brilliant.
I love it when somebody takes the time to write something like that. Absolutely brilliant. There will be more X-Files next week, so tune in, people, and let's hear a little bit more of that lovely music.
Oof. Well, I just went around, but I had a look on to see if there was any Phoenix Knights news there, because I got quite excited there. But all I've seen is memes for Sammy Snake and Shabba. Shabba. Do your own Googling there, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh
yeah,
my
probably not best to mention it on air, but yeah, fantastic program, Phoenix Lights. I've got tickets. By the way, I bought tickets for Peter Kay, who was playing live in Newcastle, and I was in a long, I was in this long queue online. You know, one of those things where you're refreshing and you're waiting and waiting. You're in a queue and it does that whole thing. And I bought them a year and a half ago. And the show is not till 2025.
Yes.
Unbelievable. That's the demand when that man puts tickets on sale for his comedy shows. But brilliant stuff. Looking forward to it. I'll get there eventually. I've seen him live before once, and he's absolutely fantastic. Okay, 8:40 on the Northeast Footy Brekky show. We've got a couple more things to talk about, but we'll have a quick break for traffic and travel.
Yep, sweet baby Jesus and the orphans. It's the traffic and travel.
From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swalwell to Silverlink. The Northeast Footy Breakfast with Roy, Steve and Ted.
Right across the Northeast, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
Welcome back to the North East Footy Brekky Show. Bit of breaking news actually on Newcastle World. Charlie Bennett, a big Newcastle fan, has said that Manchester United have given up, more or less, on the Dan Ashworth situation.
Really?
Yeah, they've now tasked. This is official from the Manchester Evening News. They have now tasked Matt Hargreaves with player recruitment ahead of the summer transfer window. Essentially because Newcastle are refusing to budge on the £20 million demand to release the sporting director early. Newcastle are apparently prepared to play the long game and allow Ashworth to run down the rest of his gardening leave, which is set to last till, wait for it, 2026.
Wow.
Jim Ratcliffe has already come out and described the situation as silly. But Newcastle, it appears, right, are not going to be taken for fools, and certainly don't want Ashworth going to Manchester United and giving up all of Newcastle's secrets. So this is getting messy, right?
Yeah, no, it certainly is, and you can kind of understand it. I mean, if he was to go in immediately, he would have insider knowledge of what's happening right now. But give it a year or two, and he's well behind the eight ball, isn't he? He wouldn't know what's happening at Newcastle, and he wouldn't know what's happening because he's a good season behind. So I get it, and I think it's it's an interesting sort of development because it just shows you that Man United just can't go out and get whoever they want these days. Do you know what I mean? Back in the 10 years or so ago, you probably, and look, to be fair to him, Dan Ashworth said he wanted to go, and Newcastle are saying, well, you're our man, and we're going to play hardball there, and it's very interesting. I can see why Newcastle are doing it because of the amount of involvement Dan Ashworth would have had with running of the club and stuff like that, but. Just not as easy as it seems, was it, Ratcliffe? Hey, coming in and buying everyone and just spending your money around, flashing your wallet. Hey, it is there's a bit more to it, mate. And everyone thinking that Man United are that power team again straight away. It doesn't happen overnight, and it certainly doesn't happen with one man in Dan Ashworth, which you're not going to get immediately anyway.
Steve, have relationships broken down completely between the club and Dan Ashworth? There's no way back.
Again, I'm not privy to what's going on as far as as far as chat and talk between the club and Ashworth is, but reading between the lines and reading from some fairly high profile journalists and speaking to a few people who I know who were in and around the club, 100%, mate. There's no turning back.
No.
It feels like the biggest. It feels like the biggest. Active betrayal since Judas Iscariot. He's essentially stabbed the club in the back, is the way I feel. He's come in with all guns blazing, with this huge reputation, and now it just feels like he says, oh well, there's a bigger club coming, I'm going to move on. And look, I mean that's what players do, I guess. You accept it with players. Some players will move on. We don't keep the same players for years on end. But I just think, had he been here 4 or 5 years and he'd fulfilled his remit, I don't think any of us would have felt too disappointed.
Yes.
But he's been here such a short amount of time, and it's the fact that he's going to one of our rivals, and Manchester United are a rival of Newcastle's. We're neck and neck, in this chase for 6th place this season. And it's that disappointing, and that mischievous stories written about Ashworth giving the blueprint of Newcastle's future to Manchester United. I mean, whether he has or whether he hasn't, it doesn't matter. Newcastle can change the blueprint, but what he is privy to is what Newcastle's budget is and what Newcastle can spend, which can't change because of FFP. I mean, I'm sure some bright accountant can work it out and say, right, okay, well, Newcastle's done this, and this. This is what they've spent. This is what they can achieve. This is what they can do. Everything's transparent. All the books are at company's house. But I mean, it's just it is disappointing. Kieran Maguire's put something out this morning, actually, again, just going off on a different tangent, that Newcastle United have sold one share this week for £37 million.
Wow.
Now that's more investment, isn't it? This must be, we're coming towards is the tax year ending now, so is that the 37 million that Newcastle was short? As far as FFP was concerned, they've sold one share for 37 million. Does that balance the books? I don't know, but that's something interesting as well. But yeah, the Dan Ashworth situation, it's just left a sour taste in the mouth for everybody. And I'll be interested to see what happens now. Maldini was definitely in Newcastle, although the club haven't confirmed or denied yet. I've done a little bit of digging, and Maldini was in Newcastle, so he's clearly been
with
here.
Daz, I heard.
He hasn't been here he hasn't been here to go and shop at Phoenix, has he? He's been here to see Newcastle, or go around the vortex in the Granger Market. After reading that review on Reddit, he's come here for a job interview, hasn't he? So how did that go? Is there a potential that he's going to come in? And of course, if he does come in, what kind of changes is he going to make? This is what I'm saying about Newcastle United. We never switch off. People say, why don't you have a holiday in the summer, Steve, when UFC matters? Why? Because our club is 365 days of the year, constantly stories developing. And some of them are good and some of them are bad. A lot more good than bad these days. But yeah, the Dan Ashworth thing really, really does leave a sour taste in the mouth. And I'm delighted that Newcastle have took this stance, and if yes, it's going to cost Newcastle. People are going, yeah, but he's got to be paid. Newcastle's got to pay him. Well, yeah, he's on a contract. It's a contract which he wants to break, but yeah, let's play stupid beggars. Let's keep him at the club till 2026 doing absolutely nothing. Let's do that. He's been disloyal to us. Why should we do him any favours? And if Manchester United want him that desperately, pay the money. Give us the 20 million. Yep. You're the same people who wanted a ridiculous amount of money off us for a player that was past his sell-by date, who's gone on and achieved nothing since he left the club. In Lingard, you wanted a £20 million loan fee off us for Lingard. So reap what you sow, Manchester United. No sympathy from me. And I just hope Newcastle can crack on. Steve Nixon, I think, has got the job at the moment of recruitment. I don't think Newcastle are going to rush into making an appointment. And I wouldn't imagine that Maldini's going to be the only person who comes in and has an interview. There's lots of people out there who probably could do the job as well. But
I could do it.
You could do it, mate.
You could, yeah.
Yep.
We've had a few more WhatsApps on this one. On a couple of things. Alt has been in touch. Morning. Proud NUFC standing their ground on this one. This feels like a win. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
We've also been talking about your favourite kits this morning. Steve mentioned his, the 83-84, wasn't it? Classic Geordie kit with the blue star in the middle. Morning, gents. This is from Daniil. My favourite kit, 95-96 season, home and away. I've got the retro version of the home kit. 95-96.
That was a good Borough kit to have, Daniil. You big Borough fan, you.
I think he was talking about the Newcastle one. He's also mentioned the international 82 home kit that I'd mentioned, and the Italian 90 kit you did as well, Steve. He's got retro versions of both of those. And our friend Jack, he's mentioned. Right. So Jack interacts with my show as well quite a bit, and one of the songs he regularly requests on our Friday jukebox is, and I don't know, it's something to do with, I don't know what it's to do with really, but he likes Mr. Blobby. Okay. Let's not hold that against him though. No. He's come on this morning. Morning, lads. Hope you're having a fantastic Thursday. Loving the show as always. Maybe a little more today. Hey, Ted. Hey. Hey. Anyway,
actually, right.
No, well, he just put a winking emoji, and I translated that.
Good translation. Accurate.
So he's put, I have the Lantwit Major AFC 23-24 goalkeeper kit. Right. Oof. And it's a Welsh team, and they have a fantastic kit, and it's basically a Mr. Blobby kit. You will not believe this. I'm going to I'll send it into the WhatsApp group that no one talks about. But if Jack, if you do have this, there is help out there. Okay, that's all I'm going to say on that. Let me just try and get it through for you guys to see, because this has got to be seen to believed. Here we go. It's on its way. I can't see any goalkeeper wearing this. I don't know if this is real or not.
Pavel would have worn that, I bet.
Yeah, probably would, yeah.
Pavel used to wear some garish strips, didn't
he? He did, yeah. He did. Oh, wow.
So thank you for that, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
Yes, thank you for the perseverance this morning, because we've had a couple little bits of issues with our WhatsApp this morning, so thank you for your perseverance.
Breaking news on the Newcastle beat, lads. I told you, Fabrizio Romano, who very rarely gets it wrong. He said that Joe Linton is signing a new 4-year deal, and it's now been verbally agreed. Despite the chance for Brazil in midfielder to leave as a free agent, Newcastle have made him feel special for the club, manager and the entire project. So that's great news. We're just waiting for the official confirmation from the club, but there's so much smoke around this particular fire that I would say that it is probably true. And we haven't had a Good Morning Britain poll for a while.
Yes, Steve. Sort it out.
But this morning, lads, sinful symbolism is the topic.
What?
Is it wrong to make religion sexy? And this is all stemming from Rihanna, who is posing on the front of a fashion magazine dressed as a nun with a rather revealing cleavage, shall we say? So,
Rihanna, no, you're a mum now.
Yeah, see, well, this is interesting, isn't it? So, is it wrong to make religion sexy? I mean, should we dress when he gets back, Dave Roberts up as a vicar, perhaps, and stick him on social media?
Well, I guess the question I got for you guys is it wrong to make a Northeast Brekky show sexy? Do you know what I mean? Because that's what we do.
Well, we can't help that though. There's nothing we can do about that.
No, I've tried. We've tried.
Yeah,
we try and make it ugly, but we just can't. You know what I mean? Like as soon as you see the headshots from Steve, you know what I mean? You get a watch along from me, and then Ted's like there posing at a pool. It's gone. We're gone for at least 12 months. So, it's
but that wasn't the poll. I just thought I'd chuck that in to see how you reacted to it. Their actual poll this morning was about parking. Now this is shocking. Research by Good Morning Britain reveals that 35,000 parking tickets were successfully overturned on appeal in hospital car parks in England last year. Whoa. So is it time for England to allow Wales and Scotland to make it free to park in NHS hospital car parks? My answer was yes.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, lads? Yeah,
absolutely.
Make it free. Yeah. You're not going there just for
92.9%. 92.9% said yes, 7% said no. So we're on point this morning with Good Morning Britain. Or should I say they're on point with us? And I was getting excited as well, lads, because just a last thing about Twitter this morning, or X. Dalek is now trending, and I thought Matt had sent us me date for my audition.
We've still not heard a sausage from him,
come on!
I wanted to be, as I say, I wanted to be a Dalek. That would suit me down to the ground. I haven't got.
You'd have to be on the ground because you couldn't get up the stairs.
I know. There is one thing that's come up on there though, which whenever Dalek trends on here, I'm not going to say the title of the video, but it's well worth. If you just Google Spike Milligan, who was a wonderful comedian, and Dalek, it will take you to the clip that I'm referring to. I don't want to get it shut down for woke references, but if you go to it, it is absolutely hilarious. One of the funniest sketches that Spike Milligan ever did. Fantastic. We're coming up towards Daz's show. What have you got on the show for us this morning?
Well, we've got all the usual stuff. We've got we're going to look at the showbiz, we'll look at the news and all that sort of carry on as well that we do. We've got a special category this morning. Now, I'm often being accused of my humour is quite toilet humour. So you like this one, guys. I'm going to live up to my reputation, and I want our listener to suggest films or TV titles that have got toilet humour in. So I've done a few. We've got Cistern Act, Bridget Jones's Diarrhea, and the Armitage Shanks redemption. So if that's our category this morning, toilet humour, as well as the quiz that's sweeping the nation.
Fantastic. Well, that's it for the Northeast Footy Brekky show this morning. We've had a good laugh as always. We will be back tomorrow, and Ted will be back with us as we'll be looking ahead to the weekend's games. Have a good day, everybody out there, and have a good show, Daz.
Yeah, take it easy, gents.
Have a great day, guys.
Yeah,
Bye.
we'll be back tomorrow from 7.